I 2016 blev Bob Dylan tildelt Nobelprisen i litteratur. Det var en verdenssensation. Det vakte stor debat. Jeg var utrolig glad, fordi igennem mange år har jeg indstillet Bob Dylan til Nobelprisen, så det var en glædens dag for mig. Og den dag, det var den 13. oktober 2016, lovede jeg mig selv 2 ting. Jeg lovede mig selv, at jeg ville skrive en bog om Bob Dylan, og jeg lovede mig selv, at jeg ville indbyde til en stor international konference om hans værk her i Odense på Syddansk Universitet. Nu er bogen her, men det er også konferencen, for gæsterne er på vej her til Odense for at medvirke i Dylan-konferencen, og vi har været så heldige, at vi kan sætte nogle af dem stævne her på Syddansk Universitet i det gamle adelige jomfrukloster i centrum af Odense. Vi skal blandt andet byde velkommen til Nina Goss, der er forfatter og universitetslærer fra New York. Hun har skrevet flere antologier om Bob Dylan, og så har hun også redigeret et tidsskrift, der udelukkende handler om Bob Dylan. Nina Goss, it's a great pleasure for me to welcome you here in Odense.
Thank you. It's a wonderful privilege and honor to be here, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, you've been studying Bob Dylan's songs for many years. You've focused on Bob Dylan of the 60s, but also the post-millennium Bob Dylan. Could you characterize the post-millennium Bob Dylan? What's he like?
I think, to be honest, my ardor for Dylan's work really depends more on post-millennial Dylan than it does on the canonical 60s Dylan. And I find that if I had to characterize what I find so inexhaustibly fascinating about Dylan's work after the turn of the century, is that on the one hand, he's singular in being a major artist who is not only productive in his later years, but is original and vigorous in the way he presents himself through age, that's distinct from the artists that we associate with aging and productivity, like Wordsworth or Picasso. There's a way that Dylan is enacting an age through his art that I think is unprecedented in Western art, and I think really merits very close attention. There's a way that he is robust while he's robust in that act of retreating from life in a way. He withdraws from life with such vitality that there's just this fascinating dichotomy that sustains his later work.
Are there any special songs that you would mention in this relation?
This
special way of handling age and
if I had to direct people who were, perhaps new to his work after 2000, I would say look at the 3 great flood songs: High Water, When the Levee's Gonna Break, and Tempest. I think it's a sinking song. This may not be a flood, but it's a song of drowning and sinking. And in all of those,
it's a song about Titanic.
It is, yes. And so it's a watery death is the trilogy of watery death. And there's a way that Dylan, as the singer or as the narrator, in terms of Tempest, there's a way that he survives while observing the immolation and the destruction around him. And there's a kind of cruelty and a kind of triumphalism, and also a kind of a rich compassion and empathy for what it is to submit to the floods, to submit to the water, while he endures in some way. And they're fascinating tensions between survival and triumphalism and compassion in those three songs. And also the three of them exemplify the extraordinary way that he seems to always find a new method of being unoriginal, he's singular in his plundering of other texts and other musical artists. And each one of these songs is again this strange way that he's able to reinvent stealing. And so each of these, so I would ask anyone and to look closely at the three songs of floods and watery death, and those really show to me.
Just for a Google image search, you have to go case by case.
Watery death, that's also a kind of, it's a literary quotation from T.S. Eliot, isn't it?
T.S. Eliot, and also Keats, and oh, now I've lost, what is it? Is it Lo and Behold, or Odds and Ends, and Basement
I think it's several places.
Yeah, where he talks about, and you know, Keats' tombstone says he realized one whose name was writ on water, and I think Keats, there's something about Keats that's very much present in Dylan's mind. There's some way that he connects to this, you know, this efflorescence, this, and then the hideous death. Yeah. He's referring to the Spanish steps in the current versions of Serve Somebody that he's doing. I didn't mean to get off on Keats, but this happens all the time with Dylan.
Yeah,
everything is a rabbit hole.
Of course, all kinds of classic poets pop up when you talk of Dylan, and the strong symbols of poetry, water, of course, and water means both death and also a renewal, in your opinion, it means that he find a new way with his art. It's both represents death and something new, something original, something that gives a new life to his songs. Or how do you see that?
Yes, it is, but it's more. I see it more as endurance than renewal. I feel in those songs that his condition of treading water, the work that goes into keeping one's head above the, you know, above the drowning pool as others around him succumb. So there's a cruelty, I think, to him that shouldn't be, that's important to his art.
And that's something that is present in after the turn of the century. You see that, especially something new that has come to his art.
Yes, there's something that's pushing him. That I hear it very much. Ain't Talking is one of the masterworks of this condition of endurance and a kind of vitality that is the fire is gone, but the light is never dying. The fire, and that sense of something alive and something that's not quite inspiration, but that he can't refuse. It's a life within him, a life of creativity that he knows is not the nova of youth. It's not the illumination of youth. It's a dark light that he still cannot refuse.
Yeah, that perhaps you could think of melancholy in this respect. I think that there's some of his songs from later years. They have a kind of melancholy to them, but it's not that you're looking at everything that's dark and depressive. It's a kind of creative melancholy.
Yes.
That you realize that perhaps life will end, and
absolutely.
But it's full of creativity, and yeah, you talked of the black lights.
Yes,
the
a relentlessness. Yeah. Yes, I do. And melancholy, I certainly see. I think of melancholy myself as sort of a precious and self-indulgent feeling, but I don't. But that's just my interpretation of the word, but I do, I see, yeah.
Yeah, Dylan sings of it's not dark yet, but it's getting there.
That's an extraordinary condition, not dark yet. Those three exceedingly simple English words to create a condition that's impossible to name. What does it mean, not dark yet? Yeah. What does that mean? That is a literal idiom for light, but of course that's not what's conveyed by not dark yet. It's the anticipation of
you're on a kind of threshold of something.
Exactly.
Between ages, between creativity and silence.
Exactly.
But there you are, and there comes the words. I think you described that very, very well concerning these albums of the post-millennium Dylan. Yeah. You are one of the speakers at our conference.
I'm so excited. I'm very nervous.
Oh,
put that down on your tape there. I'm very nervous.
You need not be. It's great to be a little nervous. But I think your paper is it'll be excellent. I'm sure. But could you just give us a few hints on what is it about? What are you going to talk about tomorrow?
Well, it's important. I like to try to have my cake and eat it too, and that's an arrogance that's my shortcoming. Is I want always to come at Dylan displaying some fluency in contemporary academic critical theory, and earn bona fides on that score, and try to do some justice to him that removes him from that framework, that shows that he exceeds the framework of critical theory. And so I chose the field of precarity, which is this extraordinarily, strangely fecund field, discourse now in multidisciplinary and runs the gamut of creativity and critique. It's a whole world of productivity out there with the label precarity. And I wanted to see it, again, my passion for millennial Dylan, and especially for the album Tempest, which I think is one of the great majestic creations of his canon. I wanted to see what I could do if I brought those together. And the song Scarlet Town seemed very well suited to the condition of precarity. And so I try to explore.
Why do you think so, that this song is especially interesting to this new theme of a group of people with uncertain conditions of living and uncertain relation to work and to social life at all?
The song is always chilling to me. The song has always been blood-curdlingly chilling to me every time I have heard it, and for a good several tours, he performed it regularly, alone on center stage, not behind the keyboard, and just singing the song straight as one would hear it on the, familiar with it from the studio recording. And there's this as I put it, this mashup of dystopia and nostalgia in the song that I find very unstable and disturbing. Always, it's even as melancholy and as distressing as Ain't Talking is. Scarlet Town seems to be even a step further into the dark land of Ain't Talking, this restive singer in this world, this completely ungrounded world that he's unable to extricate himself from and unable to settle into. And that's very much what I see in Scarlet Town. And then when you start looking at the pastiche of Barbara Allen is obvious to anyone, but he's also really wreaking havoc with a very ambitious and admirable poem by John Greenleaf Whittier in the Chapel of the Hermits. He extricates actually more from that poem than he does from Barbara Allen, and does quite aggressive things to poor Whittier in the song. And this sort of led me down the path to ideas about folk culture and authenticity and that sort of thing. So I'm just going to tie myself in knots if I keep doing this without my notes for my paper in front of me. So, but that's what interested me.
In your opinion, the social themes of Dylan's songs have changed after the millennium, when we entered the 21st century. The social theme of his songs have changed.
See, this is as American culture is currently steeped in such sanctimoniousness and such the vocabulary of liberal pieties is so suffocating in American academia now, and that when you say the word social theme, that just ignites this frame, this kind of suffocating frame of liberal pieties. And I feel, oh my God, this is an ethical question. I have to think of some progressive social theme, and I don't know what to say. His social theme is that there's an inclusion and a live and let live, perhaps, in his. If you attend his concerts now and you hear people complain constantly that he's how antisocial Dylan is. He's not talking. He never speaks to the audience. And this is this grievance. And I think, why are you not hearing the generosity in this man's life? Night after night after night. Whatever breath he has to hand, whatever textures and palette of emotion he has to hand, he lays it all out for us in 15 songs, 18 songs. Whatever he has to hand. And to me, that's a social theme, that generosity of the aging, declining artist, the potency of an artist in decline, that it is on display night after night after night. So that's not a social theme, but that's...
Indeed it is. It's a social behavior, you could say.
You could
it's
say that,
social practice. It's a way of giving the audience such a richness of wonderful poetry. And I think you're very right about what you said about The Tempest and Scarlet Town. This interesting interpretation of the folk ballad, the poetry that is in it. So yeah, it's a social practice.
And the questions Dylan raises about originality in art, I think are vital too. Are a vital social theme in terms of what ethical frameworks we bring to our encounters with art. And I think that the controversy surrounding his Nobel Prize is very much is stirring up questions about what we want from art. The controversy is, to me, I think it's just Philistinism on parade, every person that...
And he keeps on challenging tradition, challenging himself, and challenging us as an audience.
Yes, so I guess that's the social theme that I feel safest and most comfortable talking about, is what value we ask of, especially now when art is so, we command so much moral, very limited moral stances from art. And Dylan lays that to waste, and that's something that I hope 100 years from now people will cherish in him, that he lays moral high grounds and sanctimoniousness when it comes to art to waste.
What is your favorite album?
I don't have one, but I can tell you what the very last song is that I ever want to hear. And there are people, and I don't take this matter lightly, and there are people who have arranged their final hours. So, and I absolutely do not take this lightly. And the very, very last Bob Dylan song I want to hear before I shuffle off this mortal coil is I and I. And to me, that has this infinite depth of the eros of the artist in it, and I want to go out on that. On Dylan singing that.
Tak til seerne, fordi I kiggede med.